Madison Square Garden has never been a neutral place, and on this night it made that clear from the opening seconds. Lennox Lewis walked into the ring as a world-class heavyweight, but not as a man the American crowd truly believed in. He had the size, the Olympic pedigree, the belt contention, yet something was missing. To many fans, Lewis was still an outsider, a technician who hadn't proven he could survive a real heavyweight war. Across from him stood Ray Mercer, a fighter cut from a different cloth. Mercer didn't need finesse or public approval. He carried himself like a man who expected violence and was prepared to give it back. From the opening bell, the contrast was immediate. Lewis snapped his jab with authority, claiming space the way champions are supposed to. Mercer absorbed it, nodded, and kept coming. Every step forward from Mercer tightened the tension inside the arena. This wasn't just about rounds or points, it was about belief. Each time Mercer landed a heavy right hand, the crowd came alive, feeding off the idea that Lewis might not be built for this kind of fight. Lewis stayed composed, but the message was clear. Boxing skill alone wouldn't be enough tonight. Madison Square Garden wanted proof, not promises, and Ray Mercer was more than willing to test exactly how deep Lennox Lewis could go. As the early rounds unfolded, Lennox Lewis tried to impose order. His jab landed clean, his right hand followed sharp and straight, and for moments the fight looked like it might settle into a technical rhythm. But Ray Mercer refused to let that happen. Every exchange ended with Mercer standing inches away, crowding Lewis, forcing him to work harder than planned. Mercer's punches didn't always land clean, but they landed heavy. Each impact sounded different, dull, thudding, punishing. Lewis began to feel the cost of every second spent in close quarters. This was exactly where Mercer wanted the fight. The Garden sensed it too. With every Mercer surge, the noise grew louder, and with every Lewis clinch, the doubt grew deeper. Lewis started to bleed, and the visual changed the fight's psychology instantly. Blood doesn't just affect judges, it affects momentum. Mercer fed off it, throwing more, pressing harder, making Lewis uncomfortable in ways few fighters ever had. By the middle rounds, control had become fragile. Lewis was still boxing well, still landing cleaner shots, but Mercer was turning the fight into a test of endurance and nerve. This wasn't about who looked better, it was about who could withstand the pressure. And slowly, unmistakably, Lennox Lewis was being pulled into a kind of fight he had tried to avoid. Somewhere around the fourth and fifth rounds, the fight crossed an invisible line. The clean structure of boxing gave way to something rougher, more primal. Lewis fired combinations with urgency now, no longer content to score and move. Mercer answered with looping rights and brutal hooks, forcing exchanges that rattled both men. The crowd roared at every collision, sensing an upset hanging in the air. Mercer's conditioning was questioned before the fight, but inside the ring, he refused to fade. His jab kept flicking out, his pressure never fully stopped, and his confidence grew with every second Lewis spent standing in front of him. Lewis, to his credit, didn't break. Instead, he adapted. He fought back with short uppercuts, sharper inside work, and moments of real authority. But the cost was visible. His legs slowed. His breathing deepened. This was no longer a fight about elegance, it was about resolve. Commentators debated who was winning, fans argued in real time, and the scorecards felt impossible to predict. Momentum shifted round by round, sometimes minute by minute. Mercer landed enough to keep hope alive. Lewis landed enough to stay in control. Neither man could dominate. By the time the later rounds approached, both fighters had been dragged into unfamiliar territory, a place where reputations are tested and futures are shaped by survival rather than style.
By the championship rounds, exhaustion had replaced strategy. Mercer's punch output dipped slightly, but his intent never changed. He still looked for the right hand that could swing everything. Lewis, aware of the danger, tried to box smarter, using distance and timing instead of force. But the crowd didn't reward subtlety. They wanted drama. Every Mercer jab, every looping right hand drew a reaction. Every Lewis movement backward drew suspicion. The Garden believed Mercer was doing enough, and belief is powerful. Lewis had moments where he clearly won exchanges, landing clean combinations and controlling the ring. Yet nothing felt decisive. The fight balanced on a knife's edge. In the final rounds, both men emptied what they had left. Lewis flurried late, trying to steal rounds with activity and precision. Mercer answered when he could, refusing to be pushed aside. When the final bell rang, there was no celebration, no certainty, only noise. The fighters stood, battered and breathing, unsure of what the judges had seen. In a fight defined by pressure, perception now mattered as much as punches. The crowd sensed controversy before the cards were even read. When the judges awarded the decision to Lennox Lewis, the reaction was immediate and divided. Boos echoed through Madison Square Garden, not necessarily because Lewis didn't deserve it, but because Ray Mercer had forced doubt into every round. It was the kind of fight where numbers couldn't fully capture the story. Lewis had boxed, adapted, and survived. Mercer had pressured, punished, and challenged everything Lewis was supposed to be. History would record it as a win for Lennox Lewis, but legacy tells a deeper story. This fight hardened him. It showed him what elite heavyweights could do when skill met resistance. In the years that followed, Lewis would become colder, more ruthless, more complete lessons learned in nights like this. For Ray Mercer, the fight became another chapter in a career defined by toughness and near misses, a reminder of how close he came to shifting the heavyweight landscape. Decades later, fans still debate the outcome, replaying rounds in their minds, arguing over who truly imposed their will. And that's why this fight endures. Not because it was perfect, but because it was honest. Two heavyweights, two paths, 10 rounds, and no easy answers.